Hi, Sola. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing?
How you doing, Ethan? Thank you.
I'm fine, thank you, and thank you for joining me. We're here today to talk about your new album, How Should I, which is out on the 25th of October. What can you tell us about this?
Well, that I'm very excited about it. It's been a long time coming. Um, Working with some wonderful musicians in some incredible studios in London, in and around London, and we're really excited about it. And I'm really excited to introduce the album to people and also to play it live. I think that's the thing that's really getting my heart going is to play it live, to kind of take it to another level in a live space on a live platform.
Have you got some shows planned around the
Yeah,
album?
we're working on some shows, a few shows before the end of the year, and some shows in the new year to coincide with the part two. So we're releasing it in two parts. How should I? Part one, part two.
So when's part two out?
So part two will be out in the spring.
Is there a reason you're doing it in two parts? Is there a story behind each part, or?
Uh, well, kind of. I just wanted to the album feels very visual, very cinematic. I almost like a play. So I was kind of feeling like I wanted to kind of present it like that, almost like, okay, if it's a play, then it's a bit of an interval, give people time to really digest the first part one, and then hopefully keep people around for part two.
You've released a single from the album, Touch My Soul.
Yeah.
Is there a reason you chose this song as the single?
Um, this song felt to me like it encompassed every aspect of my musical, of my compositional kind of being, so to speak. Everything was there. The rhythm, the attention to arrangement, the harmonic language, the lyrical content. It just felt like, yeah, this expresses very clearly what I'm trying to move towards as a writer and songwriter.
Well, you've mentioned before that this song was 20 years in the making. Have you had a lot of these songs or bits of these songs for a long time then?
Yeah, I think definitely, Ethan. A lot of this music has been marinating for a long time. And the funny thing about songwriting and definitely recording, they've been through several changes over the time that they've been written. So, the early version of Touch My Soul is completely different to what it is now. And I I was saying to somebody the other day, sometimes it's not until you write the work or you do the piece of work creatively that and then you are able to objectify it. So you bring it outside of yourself, your mind and stuff, and then you look at it or you hear it or you read it, and then you suddenly get a different sense of, oh, I see, this is what seemed to be going on for me, and this is what it seems I'm trying to explore through this piece. And I think that's the case through most of the songs. I feel like I'm exploring something mainly to do with family and identity throughout the album.
Well, you've mentioned as well before that this album is like a bridge between your British roots and your Nigerian roots. How
Yeah.
important is it expressing those roots in music?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what's beautiful about that is, again, I use that word fluidity. It just, for me, gives me a sense of not being bound by the two different ideas, of what it means to be British or what it means to be Nigerian, what it means to be Yorkshireman, what it means to be a Mancunian. Do you know what I mean? These things are, even though they're embodied, we feel it in our body through our experience, with family and friends and peer group and stuff. But actually, as a species, as humans, we're very fluid. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus speaks of that you can never step into the same river twice. I think there's a very deep message in there that don't be bound by how people try to box you. We're much greater than that, much more powerful than that. And I think it's the ability to move between different interactions and different scenes. And again, scenes, that's why I'm using the film analogy again, and plays. And I like that. I think, like I said to somebody the other day, my grandmother or my father's mother, her family, that's what they did. They were performers, but they weren't just performers in a narcissistic way for themselves. They were performers in a way to speak to power and to kind of ask difficult questions around power and family and dynamics that prove to be problematic. So I believe that I know and feel that I'm honoring my grandmother in that respect. I'm the only one in the family who went down the creative route. Everybody else is academic and, lawyers and doctors. And so I always feel that, okay, cool, I know what I'm doing. I'm honoring my grandmother's family. That's what they did. And I've tried to use this album to again, I'm repeating myself, to explore some difficult themes that we all struggle with. Hence, how should I? So I hope that everybody can ask that of themselves when they listen to the album.
Well, you've mentioned that the album's gonna. You want the listeners to be taken on a journey, and is that the message you want them to take? That we're not all just like contained in one box.
Yeah, it's a journey, an incredible journey to try and keep an open sense of yourself in internally, and therefore how that manifests externally in terms of how we deal with the world outside. Keep yourself open, and try and be as fearless as possible, and move into different places and move with people and ideas that stretch you outside of your received concepts of what it means to be Ethan. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're a well-known part of the group Jamiroquai.
Yes.
So doing like a solo project, is that something where you can go do what you want to do and express yourself that way, then come back to the group?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's very important for everybody to do that. Matt Johnson is currently recording his third album. Derek McKenzie, the drummer, is currently recording an album with a young singer, Sophie. Derek is producing that album. So I think it's really important for the band to explore their creative dynamics outside of the Jamiroquai space, because that also it brings new things to the Jamiroquai space when we reconvene, as we're doing at the moment in terms of writing the next album. So it means that we can come back with some different ideas. Otherwise, it just gets repetitive and we're just saying the same thing and nobody's moved, and that's just terrible. So I think
So,
it's really important that we're all trying to do different things. And for me, one of the things about this album is that listening to what I did on this album, I realized that, okay, yeah, all of this is stuff that I've always played with Jamiroquai. It's just that with Jamiroquai, it becomes a small part of myself that is part of a big thing called Jamiroquai. But I wanted to explore what part of myself that I'm bringing to Jamiroquai can I now bring to myself to give to me, and see how I would explore an idea that was turned into something else with Jamiroquai. Do you see what I mean? So what's lovely about this album is that I've been able to take a lot of the ideas that I've brought forward to Jamiroquai since the traveling without moving, and now I'm building songs around those ideas that, well, I don't hear it like that. That's how Jay hears it. I hear it like this. So hopefully people will hear that in the album.
would you say that you all doing your own things helps the longevity of the band as well?
I definitely think so, Ethan. I think it's really important. I think all the great bands, all the UK great bands, from Zeppelin, Genesis, do you know what I mean? Those guys all did their own stuff. The Stones, Blur. You got to develop your own voice outside of the collective space, especially a collective space like Jamiroquai's, it is Jamiroquai, but fundamentally Jamiroquai is JK. When people think of Jamiroquai, they don't think about me or Matt Johnson or Rob Harris. I mean, the general public. I mean, the real connoisseurs of music who really follow the band, they perceive it as a band, but in actual fact, is one guy.
Well, you mentioned there like people see Jay as like the main thing of the band, and people see like not fancy as like the background. So, what was it like going solo and being at the forefront of the attention?
Yeah, it was pressure. It was intense because, and Jay always used to say this to me, that you're making all the decisions. Everything lies on you. The final decision lies with you. And I remember speaking to Jay a few weeks ago, and we really had a good laugh about it, because I really appreciate it, Sola, that now you on a slightly different scale. You appreciate what I've been doing for the past 8 albums with the with the spectre of Sony Music or Virgin Music looming over it. I don't have that. I'm doing this as an independent artist, so I'm releasing it under my own label. But I really, during this project, I got to really appreciate just how incredible Jay is, and he's a great talent and a great band leader.
Did you say you're writing a new album at the minute with
Yeah,
Jamiroquai?
Jamiroquai. Yeah, Jay's. We're up at Jay's. Although I haven't been in a while because I've been focusing on this project, but uh, I should be going up at some point in the next few weeks to lay down my parts and have a listen to what they've been doing. And the last time I was there, I heard some fantastic pieces of music that I think it's going to be a brilliant new album.
Is there any talk where that'll be out, or is it just still recording at
I'm
the
not
minute?
sure when that will be out. Maybe next year. Yeah.
So just back to you, like we said before, the Nigerian roots and the British roots in your music. When did you first take an interest in music, and what were some of the music you were listening to?
Yeah, it's interesting, Ethan. Music was always in the home, but mainly traditional music, Nigerian music. And like I said, my parents wanted us to pursue an academic career. So I had to use a lot of force and tough spirit to break away from my parents' expectations of me. But I came to music very late, in my mid-20s, mid-20s,
Really?
really, yeah, in terms of getting serious about it, to become a percussionist. I really, well, what happened was that I was taken under the wing of a brilliant, beautiful human being, a man called Gasper Lawal, who's a Nigerian percussionist based in this country. He did a lot of work in the 60s with the Stones, Ginger Baker, Graham Bond, Air Force, Stevie Winwood's Traffic. He worked with Barbara Streisand, Viv Stanshall, real big names in the 60s in the UK. And Gasper went on to try and do his own solo. Well, he did. He did his own solo project with about 4 albums. So Gasper took me under his wing around the age of 19, 20, and he really introduced me to the world of percussion, particularly from a Nigerian Yoruba perspective, which is the tribe that we're from in Nigeria. And he really gave me this entry into this Yoruba world, this sonic world, through the language and through the drumming. And really, I say to people, I'm a child of Gasper Lawal. Gasper really opened my ears and really gave me structure during a time in my life when I was really all at sea. And he gave me structure through the music. So I've tried to carry that discipline with me to this very day.
Do you think that was important for you getting into music a bit later and having a somebody there with you to guide you through it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like I said, Gasper, would invite me to rehearsals with the band and let me just sit in and watch and give me very simple little percussion parts to play, and just he helped me to listen very deeply about the relationship of my parts to other parts in other instruments in the music, and therefore the entire composition. Gasper really opened my ears to composing in a Yoruba perspective. The Yoruba language is a tonal language, so you have to sing it. And if you don't sing the right melody, you change the meaning. So same word, same spelling, but it can be different tones. You see. So my name Sola, as opposed to Shola. Shola means something different. Shola or Shola, low, low. So there's three different sounds, three different meanings. So Gasper really open. I mean, I'd always heard it at home because my parents spoke Yoruba at home. So I'd always hear. I'm familiar with it on a deep level, but this really opened up a kind of musical structure for me that I've been exploring to this very day through traditional Yoruba poems.
Would you say you're constantly learning then?
Constantly learning, Ethan. Constantly learning. Always, always, always on the learning curve. Again, like we said earlier, that's where the excitement is. Those frightening places that you fear to tread. That's where the diamonds are. You just got to make that step and go in.
Well as Jamiroquai and your solo work, you've been doing some TV work. Bob Hart's Abishola,
Yes,
a big
yes.
sitcom on CBS. How did that come about?
Yeah, again, very, very fortunate. Right place, right time, Ethan. Some apparently, I'm not sure, I need to verify the story. Apparently, an intern that was working for Chuck Law who's the producer for Big Bang Theory, Two Half Men. They'd been listening to Nigerian library music to try and get some music for this pilot show. And an intern brought in my CD. I think they were a Jamiroquai fan. So whoever that is out there, I thank you very much. And he took in my first CD, Roots to Roots. And apparently they played it in the studio, and the sound was so head and shoulders above everything they'd been listening to for the last 3 months that they got in touch with my label at the time and then asked me if I wanted to try to do some music for a pilot series. This was at the beginning of the pandemic, 2019. And they actually wanted to use a song from Roots to Roots as the theme music called Ifanla, which is on the album. And that became the theme music to the television show. And from there, they just booked me for the next 5 seasons, right up until the end of May this year. So it's been an incredible boon. So I'm incredibly grateful to Chuck Law and one of the executive producers, Gina Yashere, who's a comedian based here, Nigerian British comedian, who she left this country because she felt as if there was a bit of a glass ceiling. And then she went to America and she hasn't looked back.
Well, you mentioned your debut album there. How did that one come about?
Again, Ethan, that came out of ARC Music, a world label music. They were looking for a Nigerian artist. They said, we don't have a Nigerian artist on our books. But I wasn't too keen on going down the world music label. You know, I'm the percussionist with Jamiroquai. I want to do funky music. And, so I was reluctant to get involved with them, but they kept sending me messages that, look, come and see us. Let's have a talk. And then my partner at the time, Gillian Evans, said, so why don't you do something around your Yoruba poems, because you're going to Nigeria, you're studying these poems, come back to the UK and go and talk to them about it. So I did. And they said, great, if you can, come up with an album with the poems, we'll put it out. So I did. I went to Nigeria and with a friend of mine and met these incredible keepers of deep philosophical, classical texts and knowledge that is particular to the Yorubas. And I learned these 10 poems and came back and recorded them at Townhouse Studios and presented it to ARC. And we call it Roots to Roots, ROUTES to Roots, ROOTS. And I haven't looked back. That project was really a cultural project for me. It was also an emotional project because it was about me trying to find out a little bit more about my mother's family, who I didn't have a lot of information about. I know everything about my father's family, but it was my way to explore my mother's family, and they're very deep family, very heavily involved in really kind of traditional Yoruba ideas around poetry and music. It was incredible.
Well, you said you take influence from your solo work and put it in with Jamiroquai work. So your musical side of things sound similar in both groups, like group and solo. But being in Jamiroquai, has that helped or hindered your solo career? Because if you look at them separately, you'd say they're different genres. But what would you say? Has it helped or hindered it?
Yeah, no, definitely it's helped. I mean, being in Jamiroquai has enabled me to experience the world in a way that most people would dream of. I've traveled around the world since 1997 with this band. I've recorded some incredible music with the band, and we've played to incredible venues and met some incredible people. And fundamentally, it's about the music. It's always about the music. And for me, it's always been about the music. And one of the things that I appreciate with Jamiroquai is that we've been able to really express ourselves in that way, in incredible studios all over the place. So I've taken that with me as a benchmark for this project. How should I? That I wanted to make sure that I could match up with, the sonic expectations that I'm used to with Jamiroquai. I wanted to try and compete with that. I want to sound as good as we sound with Jamiroquai. I want that sound on my own projects and going forward, and to push that desire for quality all the time. So it's
So
definitely helped. It's helped.
yeah, good. So you mentioned that you've been in Jamiroquai since 1997. Obviously, we mentioned your TV work, your solo work. What are some of your personal highlights in your career so far?
Whew. I tell you, Ethan, a lot of the highlights are meeting people who have got nothing to do with music.
Really? Yeah,
Oh yeah, meeting the likes of, I don't know if you're a boxing fan, Barry McGuigan.
yeah, yeah.
Is been meeting Barry McGuigan and Marvin Hagler, marvelous Marvin Hagler in the same room was something that I will never forget.
Why was that?
Yeah, because they were just so beautiful. They were such lovely human beings and so encouraging. Barry McGuigan was full of encouragement. Oh, whatever it is you want to do, I'm sure you'll do it. You need to keep your mind on it and do. And he kept saying, I think you'd be a middleweight. I could train you. So it was really lovely. And Marvin Hagler was the same. I couldn't, I was tongue-tied with Marvin Hagler, and he was just such a gentleman, man. And just so, again, encouraging and just, just keep your mind on the work, keep your mind on the craft, Shola. He said, as long as you keep your mind on the craft, everything else will look after itself. So that I've had some incredible moments. Herbie Hancock, meeting the great Herbie Hancock, and each one of them has given me something that I could really keep in my pocket. So Herbie Hancock said, Shola, as long as you're a better musician today than you were yesterday, you're doing okay. So you know what I mean? These are lovely things that great people will give you to keep you grounded. Because it's easy now, especially with social media, to just get carried away with the illusion. It's so you need to always be able to come back to what is real, and what is real is, practice, 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 practice.
Was that always important? Obviously, Jamiroquai were massive in the 90s, so was that always important to keep yourself grounded?
Absolutely, absolutely. When Jamiroquai were when we were at the height of our fame, and we were all of us, we were young, so it was easy to get distracted by all sorts of, not very healthy distractions. So I really give thanks to, well, I give thanks to my former partner Gillian for introducing me to yoga. So yoga kept me very grounded and stable and sane whilst we were on tour, and also practicing. So, if we go to New York and spend 2 weeks in New York, don't get me wrong, I wasn't a killjoy. I could go out and have a good time in the club, but in the morning, I'm off to Spanish Harlem because I've got a bata lesson with Milton Cardona, the great Cuban bata player, or I've got a conga lesson with the great Giovanni Hidalgo, one of the greatest conga players to ever live. I've got a lesson with him. So I used to make sure that, dude, I'm in America. I got to go and find the giants, and get some knowledge and information, and actually find myself feeling like like I don't know what I'm doing.
You've had a brilliant career. You've said you've been given a lot of great advice, and you've got a great work ethic. What advice would you give to a musician starting out?
Exactly what I've been saying, Ethan. Keep your mind on the craft. You want to be a musician, be the best musician you can possibly be. Learn theory, learn technique, listen to different kinds of music, especially the kind of music that you're not necessarily familiar with. Those spaces are there for growth for us as artists. So find those creative places where you feel uncomfortable. The uncomfortable spaces are the spaces where the gems are.
Yeah, brilliant.
So good, practice, practice, practice. And also in practicing, you get to see what type of person you are. So it's not just about the music. The practice is about deepening your practice as a person, as a human being. And if you're applying yourself properly to your craft, that will you'll get a sense of that.
Well, we mentioned before, like with Jamiroquai, all of you going your own way and doing solo projects helps the longevity of the band. But would you say it's helped you as a person as well then?
Yeah, certainly, certainly, certainly. I've learned some hard lessons along with Jamiroquai. Jamiroquai has been a very important a very important foundation of my career to date, beyond question. Very, very important to me.
Definitely, yeah. And just to finish off, obviously, like we mentioned, part one of the album comes out 25th of October. So you'll be doing a lot of promo work and things regarding that. But after that, what have you got planned? You mentioned you've been writing with Jamiroquai. What is there anything else in the pipeline?
Yeah, I definitely. Well, I'm really looking to do some performances. We want to get out and play the music live. I'm also working on a musical, to start writing a musical. So that's going to really keep me busy going into, 2025.
What's that been like writing a musical?
Yeah, no, really challenging, but really interesting. I'm doing my research around, my favorite musicals, West Side Story, uh, um, Seven Sons for Seven, was it Brides? I can't remember. Anyway, West Side Story is my one. I'm listening to it a lot.
Well,
And
thank.
Hamilton is also a very good musical. Have you heard of it?
All right, yeah, yeah. Do you enjoy musicals then?
I love musicals. Musicals was a big thing for me at school. I mean, I do remember in my music classes at school, I don't know, around the age of 10, 11, being really blown away, particularly by West Side Story, Leonard Bernstein's West Side Story. I thought it was an amazing piece of work.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's been a pleasure, and I
Thank you.
look forward to hearing the album.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So how do I hear the podcast?
It'll be on YouTube. Hopefully tonight I'll have it on.
Oh, okay, cool. Brilliant. So you
But,
enjoy it and stuff.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. And I think there's a lot of great messages there, not just about music, but about life and
Lovely.
as a person as well.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate it.